Thomas the Tank Engine was very proud of his branch line. He wouldn't want to be working anywhere else. One morning, however, there was a new brake van in the yards that had been brought because there had been a shortage of brake vans. That evening, Thomas, Percy and Toby were in the sheds discussing the new arrival. "He seems a nice brake van." Thomas had his doubts. He remembered what he had been told about what happened to Donald and Douglas. "I'm not sure, Toby. This brake van reminds me of the spiteful brake van." "Oh, Thomas, just because it's the same type of brake van doesn't mean he's got the same personality." Thomas knew Toby had a point, but he still had his doubts. At that moment, the Flat Controller arrived at the sheds. "Good evening, engines." "Good evening, sir." "Hello, sir." "Evening, sir." "Ah, Thomas, you're here. Excellent. I have a job for you." "What is it, sir?" "I need you to take a special engineer's train up to the stretcher track just before the last tunnel. It needs to be checked for damage after the hot weather we've had recently." "Yes, sir, but what about my passengers?" "Don't worry, I'll roster your jobs to Percy. Oh, and you can take the new brake van. I'm sure he'd love to have his first run on the line. I'd best be off now. I've spent all of Lady Hat's money on Jaffa cakes. I'm sure to be in for it. Cheerio." Thomas tried to think of a reason for not working tomorrow, but he knew he had to do as the Fat Controller said. The next morning, Thomas went off to collect his trucks. He soon arrived at the siding where the trucks were based, and he heard a voice. "Hello, are you Thomas?" "Yes, I am. You're the brake van, I suppose." "Yes, I am. I can't wait to go out." "Don't try any tricks. I know your sort." The brake van was surprised. He didn't know what Thomas was going on about, but Thomas still didn't trust the brake van. With that thought in his mind, he pulled the train swiftly out of the sidings. On the way to the tunnel, the brake van tried to speak to Thomas, but Thomas ignored the brake van and whistled. They soon arrived at the broken track, and the brake van plucked up courage and spoke to Thomas. "Excuse me, Thomas." "Be quiet, I have work to do." "Why are you being so rude to me? I haven't done anything." "How can I be so sure? You can trust me." Later that day, the brake van was back in the yard, still wondering why Thomas wouldn't speak to him. Just then Percy arrived with Annie and Clarabel. "You look sad. What's the matter?" "It's Thomas. He won't speak to me. He won't tell me why." "I know why." "Why?" "You see, there was a spiteful brake van on the railway once. Our friends, Donald and Douglas, had trouble with him. Douglas soon sorted him out." "Could you talk to Thomas for me? I'd really like to be friends with him." "Of course I can." That night Percy pulled into the sheds next to Thomas. "Hello, Percy." "Hello, Thomas. I need to speak to you." "What about, Percy?" "It's the new brake van. He asked me why you weren't speaking to him, and he said he would really like to be your friend." "Are you sure I can trust him?" "Of course you can, Thomas." "OK, I'll go and speak to him tomorrow morning." "Thank you, Thomas." The next morning, Thomas went to the yard to see the brake van. He looked unhappy to see Thomas. "Hello, Thomas." "Look, Percy's spoken to me, and I've come here to give you a chance. I was wrong to ignore you earlier. I thought you were like another brake van that was here years ago." "Yes, Percy told me. So can we be friends, Thomas?" "Yes, of course." The brake van was very pleased. "Sorry, Moustache, I'll be late for my branch line train. Goodbye." "Goodbye." The brake van watched Thomas leave to collect his coaches. The brake van felt much better now that Thomas was his friend. He felt he really had a purpose here, with his friends on the island of Sodor.